What's the funniest joke you've ever heard?
How does a non-binary samurai kill people? They slash them. A penguin's car breaks down in the middle of a hot summer day, so he brings it to the walrus at the repair show. The walrus says he will take a look, but it'll take some time to diagnose the issue. The penguin decides to grab an ice cream cone. He finished his last few licks right as he makes it back to the shop. The walrus says, "Looks like you blew a seal." The penguin says, "What? No, that's just ice cream." Once upon a time there was a Spanish magician who said he could make himself disappear. So he begins to count, dos. And he disappeared without a trace. A man and his wife were out fishing and they've taken too many fish. All of a sudden they see the game warden out checking everyone's catch, and he's heading their way. "Quick," the husband said to his wife, "we've got to hide these extra fish or we'll get caught. Here, put them in your panties, he can't look in there." "But what about the smell?" the wife protested. "Oh, just plug the fish's nose then," the husband replied. "What's blue and doesn't fit anymore? A dead epileptic." Why do Jewish fathers always get their sons circumcised? They know Jewish women can't resist anything that's 10% off. Two Jews are walking by a sign on a church that says "Convert to Christianity, get $100. They both sneer and start to roll their eyes. One Jew says, "Let me go in and see what all the fuss is about." So after 30 minutes, he comes out and his buddy says, "So did you get the $100? And the man says, "Jesus, is that all you people think about?" Henry Winkler is flying from New York to Los Angeles. A pretty air hostess approaches him and asks, "Would you like some headphones?" Henry replies, "Oh yes please. And by the way it's pronounced phones. What do you call four Mexicans in quicksand?" Cuatro cinco. Two Olympians are chatting in the Olympic Village. One asks the other, "Are you a pole vaulter?" He says, "No, I'm German." "How did you know my name?" Randomly while shooting fireworks in the 4th of July. This 12-year-old no one knows runs up and yells, "Hey, how do you circumcise a redneck?" His mother shouts, "Christopher, no." And then he yells, "Hit his sister in the side of the head." It was so unexpected and the delivery was impeccable. "Yo mama so ugly your dad wakes up with morning wouldn't." A dad is walking through the park with his son. The kid sees a dog on top of another dog and asks his dad, "What are those dogs doing?" The dad says, "Well son, they're trying to make puppies." "Cool," the kid says. The day goes on and it's bedtime. The kid gets up and walks into his parents' room to see dad on top of mommy. The son asks, "What are you doing to mommy, daddy?" The dad says, "Well son, we're trying to make a baby." The kid says, "Well turn her over, I'd rather have a puppy." From British comedian Jimmy Carr, "If only we had more mosquito nets in Africa, we could save millions of mosquitoes from dying needlessly of AIDS." This isn't the funniest joke ever, but it's the most fun to tell because of the way I get to ham it up. It's also better when spoken aloud for obvious reasons. A rope walks into a bar and says, "Hey, bud, I'll have a beer." The bartender looks the rope up and down and says, "Nope. You gotta go. We don't serve ropes here." The rope walks out. He paces around. No, he isn't gonna take that. He just wants a drink and he's a thirsty rope. The rope walks back in and sits at the bar. "Hey, barkeep, I'll have a beer over here." The bartender stares at him and says, "I done told you, we don't serve your kind here. Get out." The rope marches out the front door. Now he's angry. He's furious. He reaches up and frantically ties himself into a knot at the top. He means business. He turns right back around and marches back to the bar. "Hey, barkeep, give me a drink." The bartender looks once and then once again and says, "Hey, aren't you the same rope I done told twice to get the hell out of my bar?" The rope looks the bartender square in the eye and says, "Nope. I'm afraid not." An old Jewish man is babysitting his 2-year-old grandson while his son and his wife are on vacation. He decides spending a day at the beach would be a great way to bond. He puts on his trunks and floaties, sunscreen and a bucket hat to protect him from the surf and lets his grandson play in the surf while he reads the paper nearby. He checks on him regularly and sees his grandson having a blast in the water. All of a sudden, without any warning at all, the kid gets sucked in by the undertow and cast a mile out to sea. The old Jewish man sees the waves crashing on top of his grandson and panics. He drops to his knees and starts praying to God. Please God, please bring my grandson back. He's the light of my life. I don't know what I'll do if I lose him. My son will never forgive me. Please God, please save him. Bring him back safe and sound and I promise I'll be a better man and a better Jew. Please. As soon as he speaks these words, a giant wave swells up under the kid and delivers him gently back onto the shore and into his grandfather's grateful arms. He looks his grandson over, making sure he's unharmed. Finally, he looks up to God in the sky and says, he had a hat. Doc is about to perform a prostate exam and says it's just a routine medical procedure. Try not to get aroused. Steve. Patient says my name's not Steve. I know, I'm Steve. A Roman walks into a bar, he raises 2 fingers and says I'll have 5 beers please. A blonde, a brunette, and a redhead rob a bank. The alarm goes off and they make a break for it. A group of cops nearby hear the alarms and start to chase the thieves. The women turn down a nearby alley, not realizing it's a dead end, so they look for places to hide hoping the cops won't find them. The brunette sees a dumpster, hops in, and closes the top. The redhead finds a metal trash can, jumps in, and places the lid over her head. The blonde frantically looks for a different spot to hide than the other two, but the only spot left is a pile of potato sacks behind a restaurant, so she slips into one of the empty sacks and tries to stay quiet. The cops round the corner seconds later and decide to look around to see if the women were hiding in the alley. The first cop kicks the nearby dumpster. Thinking quickly, the brunette lets out a few growls and woofs. The second cop says it's probably just a dog. So they move on. The second cop kicks the metal trash can, so the redhead let out a few meows. The cops agree it's probably just a cat. The cops walk towards the pile of potato sacks at the end of the alley, give the sacks a kick and hear the blonde say, "Potatoes. When ist das Nunstuck slot mir? Ja. Behen das oder die Flipperwalt just put." A guy parachutes from a plane and eventually pulls on the ripcord. Nothing. Tries again, nothing. Remarkably, he sees a guy in midair going in the opposite direction. He shouts, "Hey, do you know anything about parachutes?" Guy yells back, "No." "Do you know anything about gas stoves?" What do a Catholic priest and an Olympic silver medalist have in common? They both come in a little behind. What's 6.9? A good thing ruined by a period. What is the difference between a good and a bad joke? Timing. When does a joke become a dad joke? When it's apparent. What's the worst thing you can hear when giving Willie Nelson a blowjob? I'm not Willie Nelson. A Catholic priest, a Baptist preacher, and a Jewish rabbi are discussing how they split the collection money. The Catholic priest says, "We draw a small circle on the ground, stand in it and throw the money in the air. Whatever lands in the circle we keep, the rest goes to the church." The Baptist preacher says, "We do something similar. We draw a large circle on the ground, stand next to it, and throw the money up. Whatever lands outside the circle goes to the church, and we keep the rest." They both look at the rabbi. He says, we toss the money up as well. Whatever God wants, he can keep." Where do you find a turtle that has no legs? Right where you left him. 2 engineers were planning on meeting in the park for lunch. To his surprise, the first man sees his friend arrive on a new bicycle. "Where did you find that new bike?" he asks. "You wouldn't believe it. The most gorgeous woman just rode up to me on the bike, took off all of her clothes, and said, 'Take whatever you'd like,'" said the second. The first engineer thinks for a bit and replies, "Good choice, the clothes probably wouldn't have fit,